RadioOnFire.com, Shot97.com. Thank you for joining me. I go by the name of Don McKay, and I'm here daily giving you my opinion on breaking news and many other topics right here on the Don McKay Show. Let's get things started. Now, is the United States on the verge of a major Ebola outbreak? That's what I'm going to talk about today. As the second nurse who is one of the many people that was involved in the care of the Ebola patient that passed away, Eric Duncan. Now, a lot of people drop the ball when it comes to Ebola in the U.S. Now, the nurse, this is the second healthcare professional that has been diagnosed with Ebola thus far, and I feel as though there will be more. Now, the Dallas nurse traveled to Ohio before she was diagnosed with Ebola. She flew to Cleveland from Dallas. She stayed there for the weekend, and this is in preparation for her wedding. Now, she came to visit her mother, and her fiance's mother. Now, here's where things get really crazy. She flew on a commercial jet. Now, anybody, you don't even have to be trained by the CDC to understand the seriousness of Ebola. Now, of course, she was one of the people that had contact with the gentleman that passed away. And a nurse, one of her colleagues, had already been diagnosed. So this young lady was under watch, but she was allowed to fly out from Dallas on October the 10th to Cleveland. She stayed in Cleveland. Now, they're saying that she had a temperature of 99 and some change before she left. So they're saying she did not have any of the, flu-like symptoms. She didn't have a fever before she left. Now, this is allegedly. We don't know this. So this puts all of the passengers on that plane from Dallas to Cleveland at risk, automatically off the top. Now, while she was in Cleveland, she had contact with her relatives, and one of those relatives works at Kent State University, now potentially affecting students. I'm assuming that she worked with students. Maybe she was faculty, worked with administrators or teachers. Whatever the situation is, now you have more students that are potentially, exposed to the Ebola disease, potentially. Now, the lady, the nurse, did not step foot on the campus. The president of Kent State University said, and said very quickly. So, and her relatives were sent home, and they're going to be monitored for the next 21 days. Now, I want to talk a little bit. A lot of people have been wondering whether the virus is airborne or what have you. I want to talk a little bit about what the nurses actually did to the patient. But before we get to that, she stayed there. She returned home on another flight. This is a Frontier Airlines. Now, she returned home on Monday. Now, the next day is when they're saying that she developed the Ebola symptoms and her fever set in and things just went downhill from there. So she returned home on Monday and the diagnosis came late on Tuesday. Now, I want to say that she should not have been allowed to fly. This is common sense. I mean, this is common sense. The ball was dropped, and the hospital, if you want to call it that has been handling the patient, should have never been handling a patient of this magnitude and this seriousness. Now, She's going to be transferred to Emory University in Atlanta, which is where the CDC, Center for Disease Control, is housed. Also, they have successfully treated 2 other patients, and they're now treating a 3rd male patient who was affected in Africa. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the contact that these hospital workers had. Now, extensive contact with Mr. Eric Duncan. This contact they had with him September the 28th through the 30th. Now, they had extensive contact with bodily fluids such as vomit and diarrhea. They had to clean up, some of that stuff. And also drew blood, inserted catheters, among other things. Now, the body suits that they were wearing did not cover their necks, and they were told by the hospital, the higher-ups, that they just needed to use medical tape to wrap around their necks. So that's what they did with that. As far as gloves, the gloves that they had were not secure, so contaminants could get under the gloves. They weren't, tied up or sealed in any type of way, and they were not wearing face, mask or headgear. Just a lot of incompetence. The hospital completely not prepared to deal with something. There are 4 hospitals in the country that have the type of facility that's needed to handle this. So the information that's being put out there is to try and contain people from getting upset, to try and contain people from panicking. Should flights be terminated until this happens? That may be a little bit extreme from where we're at right now. I think that the next 21 days for the people that were on the plane, it was 132 passengers on the plane with her returning home from Cleveland. Those people need to be watched for 21 days. If we're able to get past that, no other hospital workers are affected, and that these 2 ladies are cured of the disease, then we may be in the clear. But until that happens, I think that things are at a heightened state. A lot of people are scared to fly, and that can definitely be understandable. These next few days will definitely tell the tale. Now, here's another problem. The airplane. Let's talk about the airplane that she rode on and how they've handled that. On October the 13th, the flight was cleaned thoroughly after it landed per our normal procedures, which this is what Frontier said about that. Now, per our normal procedures, if any of you have ridden on a plane before, as I frequently do, I fly from Baltimore to Atlanta often. And I usually am one of the last people to leave the plane. So I've witnessed their cleanup. Okay, now I've never flown on Frontier, but I have flown, as I said, extensively and often. Their idea of cleaning up is gathering the trash off the plane. Okay, so I don't know how much, really, what is that going to do? Now, let's talk a little bit about it. Now, after the airline was informed that Ebola patient was on the plane was removed from service. Now, it went through a decontamination. The plane was scheduled to go back in service on Wednesday. Now this is allegedly the CDC and the airline were comfortable it was safe to resume operations. Now, of course, growing concern about Ebola has limited that. So has this plane been put back into service? That is not clear. That is not clear. I don't think that the plane should be put back into service. Have we cleaned the plane enough? Are the workers who were working on cleaning the plane, are they safe? I'm sure that everyone here, not knowing the extent of how this virus is traveling, the ladies cleaned up vomit and diarrhea. Now, they are saying that she did not have any symptoms before she got on the plane on Friday. How do we know that? How do we know that the passengers who were on Friday's flight from Dallas to Cleveland were not affected? Now, because she did not know that the symptoms exist, maybe, the fever was coming on and she was unaware of the slight temperature rise. We don't know that. We're just going by what the CDC and the hospital officials are putting out there. I think that there's something going on and something serious, so we have to definitely keep a close watch on this. Flying, at least from Dallas, is definitely a nervous situation right now. Also, when you look at the incompetence of the hospital in Dallas, now, Mr. Duncan went to the hospital with a fever, with the initial symptoms, and he was sent home. He was sent home. And when he returned, his situation and condition was worse, and eventually this led to his death. He was admitted, and we know what happened there. Now, in Atlanta, the physician and other hospital staff that were treated, they weren't sent home until they were better. So you definitely can see, the hospital in Atlanta more prepared to handle a disease of this magnitude. And as I said earlier, several medical facilities have been preparing for this type of outbreak. All hospitals need to be equipped in this manner. So definitely like to know your thoughts. Do you feel that we're on the verge of a massive Ebola outbreak here in the U.S.? I'd like to know your thoughts in the comment section and on social media. Of course, on Twitter and Instagram, I am at The Diamond K Show. As always, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for tuning in. I will see you guys next time.